Jerry Helling from Bernhardt Design. I'm not Suzanne Trockman from Wallpaper, who was supposed to be doing this talk. And this is a subject that's very dear to her heart. She has spent a lot of time and effort, and it's very meaningful to her. So she was really disappointed she wasn't able to come to London today. But I said I was very happy to step in and do my best, because I'm excited that we're going to be talking about something that unites us. So often the headlines we hear regarding this part of the world are things that divide us. And talking about design and art is something that unites all of us. We have an incredible panel, and rather than read their bio to you, I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves and tell a little bit about their history and their work. And I'm going to start with Rona from Tel Aviv.
Hi, hello. It's Rona. My name is Rona, and I'm from Tel Aviv, but I was educated in London, in Milan, and then I worked in Milan and also in London. I studied product design and I did my master in Milan as well. So now I'm based in Tel Aviv for the past 9 years, but I've been traveling for work and mainly working in Europe. I will start showing you a few of my projects, but not going really into the depth. You will see some of my projects or products are retail products, and some of them are projects that we are doing in my studio for companies. About 10 years ago, I established a British brand named Kukka. It's my company, and in Kukka we design lifestyle products from lights, furniture, accessories, and we sell them to the retail market worldwide. And then later on came Kukka Studio, and that's where we develop and experiment projects or new products, things that are not mass-produced but more from one-off learning process and development. So this one, for example, is a table 1141 that I was commissioned to do by the British Embassy in Milan. They asked me to do a table from a leftover material, and I used scissor stone. The idea of this table, mainly I'm inspired by materials. Because I work globally, you won't really recognize where I am through my work. It's part of my passage, really, I think. This table was inspired by the manufacturing method of quartz surfaces or marble. So the edges are chiseled, and it created this shape. Later on, Asad-Bakhtiari commissioned me to do a project during LDF, London Design Festival, 2 years ago, and we've designed their stand, and we created over 400, about 500 shapes or patterns that we created digitally, and they were CNC cut, so basically you could do it in different sizes, so from 5 centimeters to 1.5 meters. And that's part of their stand. So we started from the idea of the ground, from the roots, and going up. So it's the same shape that shaped and created a path in their stand. This is one of the latest projects I did last month, actually. It was in the Natural History Museum in Tel Aviv. It's due to open in July, and I was commissioned by the British Consul in Israel in collaboration with Amorim. Amorim is a Portuguese company. They specialize in cork. They produce cork, and they asked me to create a sitting area in the public area where the bar is, and so it's outdoor. And I was inspired, you cannot see it from this photo, but I was inspired really mainly from the building. It sits in an area, a high area in Tel Aviv, Ramat Aviv. Rama is like a height. And the museum is built over levels as well. So it created a topography. And I wanted to create this topography as well by the sitting. So kids actually ran over it and sat. A few people just mingled and ate. And it covered an area of about 60 square meters. This one, I'm running fast because we don't have a lot of time, but this one is a lamp. It was the first lamp I developed for Kukka about 10 years ago. It's DIY lamp, DIY because it has no finish, not because you do it yourself, but because you could, like a carpenter that always draws on the marks on the timber. So it has no finish. It's made from the same pieces, only the color changes of the cable, and it's quite simple. So all the pieces are leftovers, and actually it's the first product we did in Kukka, and since we developed other ranges that are similar. This one is Felucca. It was a product I was actually inspired by moving to the Middle East. This boat on the left, the name is Felucca, and Felucca is a ship or a boat that sails and crosses the Nile and I mean, not an open sea. And so I was inspired by the sails and created from a special material Nomex there to create this shade which has no structure, just sits on the bulb. So it's basically a piece of furniture, of fabric. This one is another commission I did in Tel Aviv in the Bauhaus, the White City. These are big luminaires. Again, an installation of a custom-made. It's a different process between custom-made and a product which is sold off the shelves. This one, it's a mirror, and again, I called it M14 and M22, like highways, because the machine there just cuts straight. Again, it's made from Caesarstone leftovers, live Caesarstone, and the mirror just slots in, so it's quite simple and minimalistic. And well, this lamp, it's an OD lamp, OD for outside diameter. It has different diameters, and again, this one, the front behaves like a reflection, a shade, or helps the light to reflect through to the back of it. 2 years ago, I was exhibiting during Salone del Mobile. This range of a dialogue between two materials, again, Caesarstone and opaque material, and the glass, which is the acrylic glass, Spectra. I called the project, it was shown as part of the Digital exhibition in Frame magazine exhibition, and it's a dialogue between two materials, the two low tables. And following that, also last month, again, at the same Natural History Museum, the blinds, which is part of the Spectra concept, made from the same glass that reflects and absorbs, so it looks really differently during light day, or if it's dark, or has any other material nearby. So that's actually in the exhibition, and this material really changes. Regis is part of, again, it's for office to hold things, and you could put magnet and hold things. It's small, from the accessories range, made from one metal sheet, a study of folding and cutting, so the leftovers, we didn't throw them away. We normally use I love leftovers and and leftovers materials, and I used it to create those trays. Again, they're not even welded together. It's not necessary if you know how to bend metal and the right thickness so it holds itself. That's it really. I'll pass on to the...
Maureen, thank you. The next person we have speaking is Khalid from Dubai.
Hi everyone, my name is Khalid. I'm product designer from Dubai, from the United Arab Emirates. I think I'm like in the heart of the Middle East, if you call it. I think I started my career completely different. I mean, educationally I am a business management graduate and an interior design graduate at the same time. So I hold 2 degrees in different spectrum. But I did started my career in marketing and communication for like 8 years. Keeping design is like my long-term future, and it just all happened from 2009 at the end of it, when I left my career and I moved out of Dubai to New Zealand, where I lived for 2 years, and I further continued studying furniture making. I wanted to specialize in product than being an interior designer, but unfortunately we didn't have the chance to study industrial design or product design back home in Dubai, as the major, or let's say this kind of study is not exist. So I moved out for 2 years. I did professional courses. I did previous courses, short ones in Central St. Martin in London, and then I moved to New Zealand for 2 years, and back to Dubai by 2012, where I started my studio. So our studio, my studio in particular, we focus on product and project, but product in particular, that's mainly, or its core is function. So we do take function, practicality, and creativity definitely on all aspects. We integrate those 3 elements on the product we produce. I'll take you through a couple of products and projects we did, but I want to tell you that for me, design, or as a philosophy of design, I approach design from different aspects in terms of movement, function, form and shapes, and in particular for me is the story. So what I'm showing you here today is like a series of stories that I'll take you through quick, but I think you will notice from the inspiration, the source of approach of design is coming from a story. So we hope those products will be telling stories by themselves to the viewer or to the audience or to the person who's enjoying them. So a lot of the stories as well, I'm trying to integrate a lot of my background, my culture, things from my childhood. So you'll see a lot of influences as well from the Middle East, and maybe it's a new perspective for designs from the Middle East as well. You might have a particular perspective or perception about what kind of design expected from that part of the world, but hopefully these might change that kind of perspective. So starting from the piece on the left, actually this is part of a collection, I call it Deco House, which is a combination of 2 architectural and design movements, the Art Deco and the Bauhaus. But and that was mainly through the material used, and the direction. So all the collection, or all the pieces in this collection, had the top part of it is mainly reflecting the Art Deco. So we are talking about fine materials, glamour, lots of shine. Where the lower part, or let's say the second part of it, it's mainly a Bauhaus. It's very architectural, using a lot of industrial material, but very geometrical and architectural shape. However, to integrate part of the culture as well, if you look at kind of the shapes, these are mainly what we call the geometric, Islamic, Arabic kind of patterns. So octagon is something like not very seen in design from maybe the west or the east, but I think with us, octagon is part of these shapes. You can see it here. And then the story of the travel and voyage and being nomadism and traveling, tribal travels, is mainly inspired the whole collection. So you see the pieces contain compartments of storage, but it's mainly reflecting something from traveling. So that's another piece as well from the same collection. So there are different types of storage units, but they are all made of pure leather. And this is actually a camel leather, which is like something we use back home as well. And the octagon shape and top, all of them. This is a concept we did for COS, the fashion brand, the COS magazine, what you see here. And it's mainly a comparison between the definition of fine dining and how we look at luxury fine dining in terms of white linen and table linen, and then the opposite or the counterpart of it, which is the fast food and the disposability of material like paper. And what I did for the magazine is mainly a fine table setting using a paper kind of table covers, but it's actually perforated to allow all the cutleries and tableware to come in. So it's a kind of a dialogue that we do, especially from a country who's maybe well known for lavish things and big buildings, and then how we can do the opposite of that, and then how we can use waste material. This is a project we did, we started in London 2 years ago. It moved to Dubai back, and then to Abu Dhabi. And in October it will go to Berlin as well, in Germany. So this is mainly what you see on the side here. These are the very old style of architecture, which we call arish. It's actually made of palm fronds, a dried one. They are gathered together to create the walls and the ceilings. And mainly the architecture is mainly built, or let's say built on a central pole. And this is what I look at, the old architecture which is being neglected, and we are moving to modern architecture. And then how we can take the basic or the foundation or the principle of the architecture of the old building, like the center pole, and then build a new structure that have a new function. So these were like kind of huts or shelters for breaks in between of like lunch breaks or stuff where people can gather and socialize at the same time under a kind of a shade. So we built kind of like a modular palm trunk, and then with a shade and seating all around it. So that becomes like a huts or shelters for people to socialize, as of the past, where it was houses for people to live in. Again, this is, I think, as you see from the previous project, this is the palm kind of what we call, this is a kind of a well-known series or collection I created from 2011. And it's being inspired from simply the palm tree, but it's from my observation of things hanged on the palm tree trunk, like plastic bags or towels and things, and then how we are refunctioning the trunk to become a hanger. And that's where we built our own. It has those metal kind of hangers where you can use them anywhere and in any height, so they are very functional, and it's rotating. Another things from the culture as well, we do utilize maybe the costume. So this is typical, let's say the traditional costume there. And if you see this is a wool band rope to kind of secure the headscarf on top. That's the original piece here. But in my creation, in these three creations, we use them as a pure, simple material, and how we can use fashion and design or product design together, integrated, to create a screen or a divider, a chandelier, and a table lamp there. This is another old material, it still exists, which is a fishing trap. That's the mechanism of the fishing trap, in a way that how the fish goes in and then they can't go out. And that's what's inspired me more than the shapes. Definitely the shapes were part of the final product, but then the mechanism of when the fish goes inside, they are trapped inside and they can't go out. And this is what I call it the trap shelf. So when you put all your belongings and you close that or slide in the shelf, you cannot reach them. So they are trapped in unless you pull it out and you can get your items out. So that's here where the function play a role. This is an installation we did with inspired from that boat in the back. This is a very old gift from the late president of the country, from Kuwait. It's never been used on the water. It's been used as a viewing deck to see sports, water sports and races, where the royals were inviting their guests into it. So we have refabricated or kind of re-imitate that history in a closed environment, where we built a cylinder shape of structure paneled by teak veneer, so it's reflecting on the boat. And then the whole thing here is made, or the whole ceiling is made of these bands on top of the main's head, and it's mainly reflecting the many, many local men came on board of this boat watching. So when you enter, you step over a carpet that's been carved in a way that it's like a sand. It's to reflect that this boat never been in the water, it's been always in the sand. And then you see the reflection, so the minute you enter, you view the ceiling. You want to know the source of these reflections, so you usually go up or view upwards to see that ceiling here. So it's the same function, it's viewing and viewing, but totally different environment, totally different experience. This is to reflect part of the nature. This is the preserve or like a wildlife sanctuary of flamingo in Dubai. And that was a special project we did with a group of designers. I was reflecting on the industrial material, which is the blocks, and then grouping them in a way to replicate what the flamingo does as the dancing, so they mate together. So that was the presentation way, but then this material becomes a candle holder. It's like transforming it to a function. This is a product from Monseigneur. It's a collaboration we did, which I believe they are here in the ICFF. You can see the original piece of the comedy on their stand on display, where they asked me to redesign it for something related to Dubai as they were exhibiting there. So I took that moment, or I froze that moment in 2000 when a horse called Dubai Millennium won with that award, with that prize. And unfortunately, this horse died 3 years later. So this new comedy is called the Headless Horses, which means it reflects a dead horse, but then we replicate, we took the exact shape of the comedy, which again you can see, and then we kind of like inject life to it from the horses inside. Even the patterns, the coloring and the design into it. So that's the craftsmanship of Monseigneur when reflecting on a story from Dubai itself. Simple movements as well inspires me. So this is Dubai, and I mean, it might be like a very artistic picture, but to see these highways and the speed notes and how things moves all around, I think that's inspired what we call it the illusion line. So that's the movement of the weaving and how it goes. So that's kind of reflecting what's going on here. And last but not least, this is what we call it zoo. It's like a shelving unit inspired by the zoo everywhere, but then even those are my childhood, is like the inflatable animals I see in those grocery stores on my neighbor. So kind of like we, instead of being sad in their cages, they are happily living together in this bookshelves. And here's the next designer, so I'm handing it to Taher.
Hi, I'm Taher Asad-Bakhtiari, and I'm from Tehran, Iran. And I'm gonna take you through my presentation really quick because I create what I call a tribal weave. I call it a tribal weave project because I work with tribal people in Iran, and we create weaves. There's two traditional weaves that I usually work with. It's a gilim and a gaber. And my input is to kind of play with the weaver's heads, because what they've usually been doing is they've been using one technique, and it's either been gilim or gaber. They don't usually mix their techniques. So when I come in, I usually mix their techniques. I leave some parts empty. I interweave lace in it. I interweave different fibers. So as you can see, these areas are the warps that actually have been left empty, so they're now weaved. And these areas are called gaber. The process is all natural. It's hand-spun wool, hand-spun wool, and naturally dyed. And these are semi-nomadic women who weave these tribal weaves. So I come from a tribal background myself. My family's name is Bakhtiari, and there's a big region in Iran that's called Bakhtiari, Bakhtiari. And so these are my ancestors. And their main craftsmanship is actually weaving. So they weave everything. They weave their tents, they weave their clothes, they weave their carpets, they weave everything, and they migrate. They migrate from cold season to warm season in search of grass, because they have livestock and they live on their livestock. And these are shepherds, and these are my work. So what I have done is pretty much gilims and gabes, their essential technique is geometric. So they don't really work with maps. They're pretty much freestyle woven. so they don't have a map that actually they can actually refer to. So, and because it's geometric, I just made the geometry a bit more bold, but I started interweaving. Again, I concentrated on their weave, not on their design, because that's what I wanted to. Again, as you can see, the lifestyle and the things that they wear and the way they look, and what I do is pretty much a product of their life. So again, natural dye wools, the way they dye them and then they hang them to dry, and then what I usually bring into the art is I interweave different fibers. So sometimes I use plastic, sometimes I use silk, sometimes I use wool, and usually the semi-nomadics are usually mostly used to weaving with wool. Again, this is the head of the tribe of my family, who was a revolutionary, and yeah, those are my products. Again, in this picture you can see, like, you can't really see it, but these areas are all lace. This is a gap bed, this is a gap bed, this is a key. So in a way, the weavers are learning to kind of use different techniques and bring all of it together and create pieces that are just not one technique. There are multiple techniques in there. They have different layers. And then obviously I'm inspired by their purification of lifestyle, but then I want to give it a bit of a contemporary relevance. So I somehow bring in the lace area here. This is just like gap band and ilim, so it doesn't have any transparency. This again has the lace and gap band, and this area is all open, so you can kind of see the works. And this is Princess Soraya as well. So she was a tribal. She was married to the previous Shah, and she comes from the same tribe. And again, in these pictures, this is again the lace part of the work, and then you can see the gleam, and yeah, that's it.
Very good. I wanted to do a follow-up question on listening to you describe the process and ancestral weaving. Was it an educational process to the people you were working with to do what you wanted to do?
Well, I think you start somewhere with them, and usually when you do start at a point with them, they're not really welcoming of the new thing that you want to bring to them. And then eventually back and forth you go a lot, and then they see that you kind of have a vision, and you're taking it somewhere, and then they start believing in you. And once your order starts coming in, then they're like, you know what, maybe this guy's up to something.
So it's just like furniture in the United States. Thank you. I wanted to move back to Rona, and can you do the final click on the slide? I want you to talk about designers in the middle and what that means to you. You've written some very beautiful words about it, and I'd like you to share that a little bit with people.
Well, designers in the middle, it's long. I'll think how to make it short. Let's try, okay? Well, the whole idea really came from me being from the Middle East, from Israel. Israel is an island in the Middle East. It's not really part of the Middle East in any way. I moved to Israel when I was already working as a designer, and came back with my family after working globally in Italy and London, and easily producing in any country. And when I moved back with my company, I found all those difficulties. I said, oh, okay, I have this lamp, for example, I want to do it from wood. Why won't I go to Lebanon? Why can I go? I cannot go there. Or to do other crafts I wanted to do in the Middle East. So this came from a frustration first. And then I used to be a journalist, and they asked me to write about Israeli design. And I thought, why Israeli design and not Middle Eastern design? Why it cannot be a region? And the whole idea evolved, obviously couldn't be really happening at the time. It was 8 years ago, so different times. So the idea was really to tell a story and to show and to share the story. Nowadays you can see, because of the social networks, you can see how similar, I think at least, design from Tel Aviv, Beirut, Dubai. I mean, you see very much of, there is a cross line between, I call it global nomads or immigrants. There's a lot of passage in this area and a lot of history, and I can see it reflect through design. So for me it was interesting to have to put together designers from the Middle East and to talk through our work and our passage, and to show the similarities instead of a conflict or things that are less interesting in my eyes as a designer and a person. So it came from this idea really, and I'm happy we've been invited to do it here.
Thank you. I'll move to Khalid for a second. Rona mentioned the similarities or the thread that runs through Middle Eastern design. What does that mean to you visually? How do we see that thread?
I think the Middle East as a whole, we do have multi-style, we do have multi-backgrounds. I mean, there's zones even within the Middle East. We call the Levant, the Gulf, the North African zone. So those neighboring countries, I think, having closer relationship or similarities when it comes to design. But I think we all share the foundation, which is the crafts that Rona mentioned. So in all these countries, crafts been inherited. At the same time, it's been moving around. So we have weaving in Iran, we have weaving in UAE, in Lebanon, in Morocco, in Algeria, so Afghanistan. So we do have lots of similar crafts that's going. So I think that's, I would say, the base or the foundation when it comes to. Now, there might be a different perception. It's what design from the Middle East, and I think we even debate that in different occasions. I mean, together, me and you, we were in London 2 years ago in the exhibition called Middle East Revealed, and this is where we wanted to give Europe in general, like a new perspective for modern contemporary design. Taher Walks were there, unfortunately Rona was not with us, but I mean, Suzanne was on that board as well. So I think we wanted to give that a new perception. So I think the thread goes in the foundation and the base, where the outcome might look different, but we kind of connected in a way of what we do. If Taher is using weaving, I have a big collection of carpets as well that I used kilim, I used hand tufted, I used different types of. It's only the style, this inspiration, maybe the story we have, if it is personal or cultural, and then what's the outcome, and how we want to go much forward in contemporary, or we want to make it too rooted to our culture. But yes, we do have a solid or a very similar foundation when it comes to craft and production.
So it's very much a craft-based thing that's shared throughout the region, regardless of what country you're in. It might be stronger in one area than another, but it's rooted in craft in one way or another. One thing I wanted to touch on was, I met you for the first time yesterday. Well, not you, but the other two of you. And as an American, I wanted to learn a little bit more about design within your country. And the three of you have been educated internationally. And design starts with education. And I'm very curious what type of design education there is to be a interior designer, interior architect, product designer, industrial designer within your country. And I'll start with you, because your country is probably the one we know the least about.
Well, I could say that there are definitely some legend architects and interior designers, and there's a lot of fake ones as well. Wherever that, I'm sure, like everywhere in the world, like a lot of people that they think that they're tasteful, they start doing interiors, this or that. but it doesn't last long. I think they don't have the right pillar to stand on. Me generally, I never had an education of design or being an artist or creating. I think my education has been throughout my life and my experiences and what I've seen and what I have felt. So I think it's different between people. Some people they have good taste and they know how to execute it well, and they care about the finishing and they have a good eye for that, and they can come into the market and do something. And some people, they have to go through years of education to do that. So I think it's different, but in Iran, I think you have both. You have both, but nothing really official or big, or we have nice buildings, but we don't have product designers. It's starting. I think it's a worldwide kind of a thing that it's starting everywhere. You know, design is just picking up. It's new everywhere. So in Iran, it's new as well.
But you do have courses in design at university
Yes,
that you can
definitely.
take that
Yes.
that you could graduate with a
Industrial
degree
design.
in industrial
Exactly.
design.
Industrial design, architecture, interiors. Yes, we have all of that, but at the same time, as people living in Iran, there are always somehow constraints in their environment. So they can't really get much of a press, they can't really express themselves, so they're limited in terms of expansion and how far they can go with that career. Unless they exit and come out and they have the entire new platform to actually express themselves. But when you're in that small little platform, that's all you have.
And is I'll keep focused on one country at a time so I can keep it straight in my mind. What is a manufacturing base? Because usually with a successful design community, it starts with education, then it involves clients of some sort that appreciate design, and there is then some manufacturing base that allows you to produce the work. Is most of the manufacturing base craft-based again, or is it there's industrial?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the craft base generally, I think our craft is become really tired in a way. The look of it is really tired, and I think the designers are coming in to kind of revive the craft and give it a new relevance and a new look. And so when you go to souvenir shops and you see the crafts, you're like, oh God, these have been here for like the past 40 years and nothing has really changed in the look of them. So you kind of get a feel of that they're tired, you know, they've been sitting there, the same look. So we're always looking to have people like artists, designers. There's a lot of artists that they get the craft and they work with the craftsmen. But at the same time, it's these people that are reviving the craft, but the craft as well, because the souvenir shops, they're tired. They don't work really. So the craftsmen don't really work anymore as well. So once people revive them and they bring them back into the market, then I think the craftsmen will start actually being on their works and doing new creative things. But at this time, I think it's fading away. It's slowly fading away, and people are like myself, people are coming in and saying, you know, the tribal weaves are kind of fading. People are now looking for more carpets. They don't want a gilim and a gape, which is kind of a lighter, edgier. It's got a different feel to it, and people are moving away from that, and they're moving towards more of a city life kind of vibe, you know.
More of an international sort of
More of a carpet, you know.
broadloom carpet.
Yeah, exactly.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
And I assume the situation in the Emirates is very different than it is in Israel or Iran.
I think with us is when it comes to education, we did have a strong focus on interior design since ages, like since the early 90s in particular. And that's why I mentioned even I've been educated as an interior designer. That was my only choice in 1998. So, and I think that due to the major development at that time of the country in general, in terms of like the real estate boom and the construction developments there. It needed a lot of interior design focus than product design. Even architecture was not exist. Although we are building buildings, but the focus of architecture wasn't. It's just recently, I mean, surprisingly yesterday, the announcements of the Triennale of Architecture in Sharjah, the neighboring city of Dubai, for the first time. So that will happen in 3 years and will be one of the major events focused on architecture and developing architectural scene in the region. So that's very recent. So yes, I agree with, I think with Taher, it's very new, to, at least to our region. To our country, it's new, yet it moves very fast. Now, not on the same base that the community and the audience, it's a big design eco chain, I would say. As you mentioned, there is the community, the designers, the galleries, the collective design, the fair, everyone, and the manufacturers and the rest. So I don't think so the community and the individuals are moving at the same speed as the infrastructures move. We had announced 3 years ago we opened the Dubai Design District, hosting thousands of studios and companies of design. So production is still focused on business to business. They are opening up to individual designers. The mentality was mainly trade, loss of money if we focus on prototyping and repeating. So where is the opportunity of money and making businesses? But I think that's changing. However, my only concern, as I said, is the speed of how we are moving fast on having infrastructure and building things and opening and having fairs. But then the community still needs time. They need their base to grow. The audience, they need design education, so they understand what's collectible design, what's art and design, what's functional design. It's not just furniture that we are using in our home. Why the value differ, why the material differ, how we can move to new materials, sustainability, other topics. So there's lots of things to do with the audience. The designers community need to grow. Their work is not ready, not all of them. I mean, most of them, their work is not ready to be in international platform, in a city like New York, or for an American market. So or even European market, I would say. So there is still time for them to learn and grow. We are moving on a bit of different speeds, and that might become an issue in the long term, that the offering we are offering out to the public or to the other markets are not up to what we are looking for or what the country is facing. But as a design education, I'll say it's growing. There's lots of initiatives been launched. We have the Council now of Design and Fashion. We have the Dubai Design Institute, Dubai Design Innovation Institute, launched with the affiliation of Parsons School and Met, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So there's my team. So there's a couple of initiatives going on, but it takes time. So we just need to keep it organically growing as it is.
Being an international hub, I think your situation is very different than it is in Iran. When I'm curious, I know you do a lot of work in London, but describe Israel as far as these topics we've been talking about, the education, the design community, the manufacturing opportunities, the manufacturing base.
Well, Israel, it's a bit of a funny country in my eyes. It's a very new country of immigrants, and in the course of the past 20 years, it changed enormously. I mean, when 20 years ago I decided to move and study industrial design in Milan, I had not really any sources. There were 2 design stores in, I could say in all Israel, because it was in Tel Aviv and the rest was nothing. Basically I had to go out in order to find what I really wanted to do. And I was quite naive. I didn't really know exactly what I'm searching, but I knew I liked to do technical stuff. I like to assemble, disassemble. I like aesthetics that came from home, from my family. But I really didn't know. I mean, I was really young and I had no idea. Nowadays, Israeli designers are, we have a lot of schools, a lot of design schools. They are well known, they are going out, they are exhibiting worldwide. It seems it's not established like European design, but there is an Israeli design scene. I'm mainly working in Europe because I moved from Europe to Israel, but I have Israelis, young designers working for me, and I find myself sometimes in the universities there, I mean in the institutes, not necessarily the universities. But there's a lot of options, educational options in Israel to study design and to do masters and PhDs and everything. It's a new thing. What happens is quite similar to what happens in Dubai, but a bit different, is that Israel is a high-tech country, high-tech developed and oriented country, and money is a big pull. And so manufacturing for small scale or craft, it doesn't exist at all. It's very, very difficult for designers to work with craft people that do craft. Weaving people, designers are going back and they're going to the Bedouins to weave with them. There are a lot of new initiatives, really interesting ones, with immigrants and the Bedouins and the Druze, because all of a sudden they find this craft, because it's just dead in Israel, which initially started as a country of immigrants. I mean, we have immigrants from the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, Morocco, and East Europe, which were really good with tailoring or weaving and woodcrafting. And all of it disappeared because they had one day an opportunity to run away or leave the country they were and to move to Israel. And they left all their tools, and the hegemony just closed on them, and they found themselves just running with the rhythm, doing whatever everyone was supposed to do. So there's a big contrast, and however, the young designers are very much experimental because of that. I mean, I've been in the HEAT Institute last submissions, and I mean, the students there are building the machines. It's something I didn't do when I was in Milan. I mean, we had, we worked with companies, we had someone, I've never built a machine.
Neither have I.
But that's what they're doing. They're doing, they're building a steam machine and everything in order to do what they're doing, because there's no craft.
I have quite a lot of experience in El Salvador. We have two of my friends over here from El Salvador, and trying to build a design community there. And there is still this bias by the client in El Salvador that they would rather have a name from Europe or America rather than something designed by one of the local designers. Do you find that true at all in your markets?
For us, yes, it is. I mean, I think at the same time, while we are here in ICFF, we have the index in Dubai, which is like the International Interior Design Fair. And today in particular, there was a talk about the perspective of hospitality design and then the demand of local design as well. And that's where the discussion is all about, in terms of how these industries need to not completely quit, but they need to shift to demand from local designers to be part of their projects and to have their designs part of them. So that's what will encourage them to keep. We do still have that. I mean, the shift to brand, when we call it international brand, so it's beyond the region, regardless if they are too famous or not, or too big brands or not. But that trust, I think that there's an issue of trust in terms like if it is made somewhere else and designed by someone else, these people know it more and it will be more quality. And that's where it's discouraging some of the younger designers who are just establishing their careers and they don't have the courage to go out there and take their product. So companies like yours and others, when they adapt those young designers, scout them, have them part of them, work with them, I think that's one of the ways we are encouraging big companies locally to do, to kind of adapt those younger ones. But we are talking about the audience side, when they come and pick particular design. That's there, and it will remain there for a while until we start producing more as well. I mean, I can't just play the audience, because the designers as well need to supply as much as the demand is there, and they need to keep. I mean, it's not from this discouragement that you stop. So you get the negative and positive feedback, but then you keep going on, you keep experimenting, you keep producing and launching more and more. The good things, I would say, on the bright side of that market, especially in Dubai, that there is, it's like New York in a way that's very cosmopolitan. There's a taste for many things. So it's not only Arabs, it's not only, for example, Western, it's not only Europeans. So it's a mix. So if my style doesn't fit Europeans, it might fit Middle Eastern, it might fit Easterns or Asians. So there's different style that can fit many consumers there. So that's where I think it's like an opportunistic land, but that issue exists, I would say, very clearly.
You describe yourself as an artist. I always get asked this question from young designers about what advice do you give me about creating a career. You obviously created a very successful career thus far. I think so. You? What advice would you give a young designer in Tehran about how to create a career? You weren't ready for this one, were you?
Honestly, I would say create something new. Create something new and wait and position it well. Position yourself well, slowly. You don't get things fast. So and I think in the young generation, with the internet and the whole social media and everything, everybody just wants to get things fast. So they want to position them fast. They want to reach a high price. They want to be in a good high caliber of designers and artists, and it takes years to get there. So, and you have to have an innovative eye and a product to go with it. You know, you can't produce something that it's in the market multiple of them. You know?
Very good. We have this. She was an 81-year-old country western singer from Nashville, Tennessee, and they were asking her how to be successful, and she said you have to be first, and only one person can be first. You have to be the best, only one person can be the best, or you have to be different. So what you're searching for is to find your way to be different that appeals to people. We're probably getting close to out of time. Is there anything that each of you would like to share about that we haven't covered yet, or about your country, or something we might be surprised to learn?
You?
He's the talker.
I
He's
think
got something.
I'll just finish, with the same question to Taher. I think if I will give advice, I always use that term, which is like think global and act global. So instead of like, so I think young designers need to always look at the bigger picture than being locally and stay locally. But then even their action should be towards that. We don't mean action or act global means you have to go out and do and exhibit and do, but always have that vision to the bigger picture and be patient for sure, because things takes time and you need time to do, and positioning, which is, from creative perspective, it might be hard for them to understand it, but it's very important that you need to say no sometimes, even if you are small. It's just like not everything comes your way, you have to say yes. This is how you retain a particular position for you within this huge market.
That's good advice. We'll close with, does anybody have a question?
I'm Liat. Nice to meet you. And I had a question about your tapestries, carpets that you create. I was just curious for the element that you use, because you use a lot of the triangles and some that are a little bit
inspiration behind it? Well, honestly, I did not come up with like a creative process with triangle. I like the triangle, and I just, because and geometrics are mostly used in the heating and the gabet that I use. So I just made it more bold, and instead of having a lot of triangles and a lot of elements, and because you know in carpets you can see a lot of elements. So you have triangles, you have flowers, you have butterflies, and things like that. I just made it more modern and bold and more minimalistic. And at the same time, each weaver, when they weave the triangles, each weaver has their own style. So one of them comes a bit not straight, the other one is extremely straight, the other one doesn't have sometimes edges. So it's kind of cool that each weaver has their own input and it comes out differently. But in terms of the triangle, I just like it.
And also, what about like the lace sections? You left some lace.
Yeah, that I just wanted to play with the weavers' heads a bit and kind of let them know that they could use different layers and they could use different techniques of weaving into one piece, and it doesn't have to be functional because everything that they create has a purpose. So it's functional. It comes with a functionality. But mine is kind of multifunctional because you put it on the floor, you put it on the wall, you can do it as you like with it, the way you like it, you know. So, and I wanted to interweave different weaves to their weaves. You know what I mean?
When you did that, do they embrace that? Do they,
When you're playing with their heads, do you embrace that, or do they embrace it or fight it?
To begin with, no. They're like, what is this? Why are we doing this? It's not practical. There was a lot of no's in the beginning, but and to actually have those weavers all the time on their loom, continuously working, because I have certain weavers that I've told the guy that I work with, and I've told him that, listen, put these certain weavers only for me, so they know my technique, they know my work, and I've always had them on the loom, so I don't have to train other weavers. Because every weaver you work with, and if you want to teach them something new, it takes them probably a year to understand what you're doing and where you're going. So yeah, in the beginning they're hesitant, they're not really liking what I don't do, but eventually, yeah, they kind of see the end product and they realize, oh, this is where he's going.
You're changing their way of thinking.
Yeah, exactly. That's the approach.
For how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it for 5 years now.
I think that in my country, in Salvador, we have a lot of craftsmanship. It's difficult because the people that want to buy things in Salvador want perfect or not artistic stuff. But for craftsmanship, as you say, they are very close with the new design or with the new stuff that we are trying to make. How can we talk to them and make them understand that what we are doing is better for our country and better for them, because we were selling, they are making. How do you think that the conversation should be at the start with the new craftsman to make them understand?
Make them understand that I don't understand. So you're saying that your country, they kind of want a perfect design. They don't want an artistic design.
Yeah.
Well, I think that comes with the vision of the people, that the end users. So the end users, what I usually approach my audience as is that the pieces that are weaved, each one is different. Each one is an individual. Each weaver has a different approach, so it becomes artistic. Sometimes the lines are not straight. It's much nicer for me as an artist to see that, because I don't want to see a straight line. I prefer to see a crooked line, you know. And it has more character. So once you start actually explaining that to the end user and the consumers, they kind of understand it as well, that why your vision is like that and where you're coming from.
If I may add, from a business perspective, I think sometimes we say, if your market is not in your country, go find them somewhere else. I mean, it's you don't need to exhaust yourself by convincing the audience in the current time that your product is not. They will not understand what you are saying. So go and find an audience out there, and then when your market will find your product and another audience, they will come and buy from you. So sometimes you need to shift out. You don't need to keep like insisting that they have to understand.
Anything else? Thank you very much for being here, and thank the three of you. And if you get a chance, go to her website and read the beautiful words of our designers in the middle. It's very inspiring, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.